Hello everybody. Thank you so much for taking time to look into my presentation. My name is Ravindra. I have been doing my PhD under the supervision of Professor Hankuk in Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Today I am very excited to present my thesis results and what I have been doing from last 5 years. So this is my thesis title, Redox Driven Topotype Phase Transformation of Brown molar oxide for reliable ReRAM behavior. This is the outline of my talk. First I will introduce the ReRAM, and then I will introduce my material system, then what is the advantage of using my material system, then I will conclude with some results. You might heard of Internet of People, Internet of Things. So it means that everybody is connected to everyone, everything is connected to everybody. So these Internet of People or Internet of Things uh, will produce a lot of information in every day. For example, by 2020, people predicted that 44 zettabyte of data is generated by 8 billions of people. However, this explosion of data is still managing with the traditional computing in this von Neumann architecture. In von Neumann architecture, there are three stages like CPU, memory, and storage. Some people always confuse with storage and memory. The storage is a permanent storage. Memory is just a volatile memory for accessing a CPU very fast, very randomly, very dynamically. That's why it's so called. People also known as people also call it as a dynamic memory, RAM. The RAM. So here I would like to note that if you want to execute one program or one file, you have to access the data from the storage, then to memory, then to CPU for operation. Therefore, back and forth information between this storage and CPU takes a lot of time, because this kind of so-called bottleneck, this so-called bottleneck, because the information here is blocked by these input and output files from the external source, like from storage. That's why your computer became a very slow due to the information reading and writing. Therefore, it makes your computer very much slow. So if we look into the memory hierarchy, what are the memories in this computer system? There are, at the bottom of the pyramid, you have a permanent storage memory such as hard disk and solid state RAM. At the top of the pyramid, you have main memory such as the DRAM and the register and cache. See, these pyramids represent the trade-off between the speed of your memory, the writing and reading speed, and the density of your memory. This is the density, and this is the speed. Because if you want a high density memory such as this hard disk and solid state drive, you have to compromise with very slow process. However, if you want a very fast memory such as this DRAM, you need to compromise with the density of the memory. For example, if you see the HSD and the SSD, they always work at 100 microseconds, because there are some moving parts and there are some circuits. You have to access the data. Therefore it takes a lot of time for accessing the data, reading the writing the data. But however, if you take the DRAM, random access memory, it is a volatile memory, but the speed of this memory is very much higher, 1,000 times much higher than that of solid state drive. There's a huge gap here, right? And of course, this is the cache memories. They are very fast in picosecond rates. If you notice here in this pyramid, there is a huge gap between the permanent memory and the ReRAM, the RRAM memory here, or RAM memory, the dynamic memory. In terms of speed, in terms of density, in terms of cost also, there is a huge gap between between the top of the pyramid and bottom of the pyramid. So if you look at the characteristics of these permanent storage memories, such as non-volatile, it means that when you power off the switch of the, even if you switch off the power, the memory still is available, and it is very slow, of course. And the black header means if you want to write or read information, you should delete all the black or all the row of information, because it is not a byte adder. You cannot access individually the individual byte of your information. It is a black adder. There is a black blocks of data are available. You should modify the whole black to write or read the data in this permanent storage memory. However, in this at the top of the filament, they are volatile, so only available when the power is on. They are very fast. And byte adder means you can access very dynamically. Each individual byte can be accessible and readable and accessible and changeable also. Therefore, if we combine fast and the fastness of the top of the pyramid and the byte adder and the non-volatility of the pyramid, then you can add the middle of the pyramid some so-called memory as a storage class memory. It means that you combine the memory, you combine the storage, then you can add this storage class memory in the middle of the pyramid. Then take this memory and place this memory directly in front of CPU. In front of CPU, you don't need in front of CPU as a persisting memory. It means that you have a storage as well as memory. It can access very fast because it is integrated with CPU as that of ReRAM, that of RRAM, DRAM. So your computer performance improved dramatically. So there are so many storage class memories, the emerging memories. There are several emerging storage class memories such as MRAM, ReRAM, PCM. MRAM is magnetoresistor random access memory, ReRAM, resistor random access memory, PCM, phase change memory, and the flash device. Maybe you are using nowadays these flash disks or flash solid state drives. But today I'm in my thesis, I would like to I want to study only the ReRAM memory. We are studying the ReRAM memory. However, I would like to show here one thing is that about the PCM memory. The PCM memory is recently the Intel is commercialized using the chalcogen materials. When it is in chalcogen material systems, when it is in the off state, the 0 state is number plus. Then in the crystal phase, it is a crystal phase. It is a 1 state, 0 and 1 state. Because in amber phase it is a insulating, in crystal phase is a conducting material. You can purchase this memory available in market right now. So if you compare the PCM memory, the ReRAM memory, the ReRAM is a very competitive to the PCM memory. Especially they have very good characteristics. All the characteristics such as low power consumption as compared to the PCM, but even the switching cycles and the fabrication cost is much cheaper in the ReRAM. However, Intel went with the PCM because there is a big problem with the ReRAM is that the variability. This is so-called variability is the main big problem for the ReRAM. That's why Intel memory went with the PCM. In this PCM, the variability is less. I will show you what is the variability in the next slide. So the ReRAM is a very simple device. It just consists of metal insulating metal structure. If you apply the set voltage to the device, like this, your resistance will change from HRS to LRS while connecting the conducting filament from the top to bottom, like this. From the top to bottom, this is connecting the filament from the top to bottom. Then the resistance will change from the HRS to LRS. Then the device becomes connected, becomes in one state. But if you apply reset voltage to the device, the conducting filament will rupture here. Then the filament will break down, so that the top and bottom are not connected anymore. Therefore, the device resistance will change from the LRS to HRS. So this resistance change in the device is so-called they call it as a resist switching, because they are eventually switching the resistance of the device to this conducting filament. There are most of the insulating materials are TaO2, nickel oxide, aphanium oxide, tantalum oxide, something like that. Top electrodes are mostly top PT or gold, or some kind of metal electrodes they use for the top electrodes or bottom electrodes. So if we what is the variability? Here I shown the variability of the device. So if you see here, this variability is just nothing is that the randomness in the switching characteristics, such as we see here. This is the set voltage, right? This is the set threshold. This is set threshold, and this is the reset threshold. So it means that the set and reset voltage is distributed very large, so much fluctuation in the switching process. So for example, see here, the set and reset voltage is distributed very long, from minus 3.5 to minus 1, so much distributed. It is a very random process. That's why even the set and reset also distributed very long, and the switching, the corresponding resistance also distributed very long, the spread very wide. Because if you see the resistance, if you read the resistance here at this point, calculate the resistance from this current and this voltage, the resistance here are, then you can see that the fluctuations a lot in this resistance changes. Even with the number of cycles, there's a lot of fluctuations like this in LRS and HRS, and high resistance and low resistance. This is known as a variability in the resistive switching. This variability mainly due to this very random formation of filaments and random rupture of the filaments. If you can see here, as that of filaments, as that of lightning in the sky. These filaments are very random in the nature. That's why you can see the very random resistive switching characteristics. So if we look at what is the origins of this variability, mainly due to there's eccentric and eccentric variability. There are two kind of variability. One is cycle to cycle and device to device. If you take one device and switch number of cycles, then you compare the variability, then it's called cycle to cycle. If you take a different device, then compare the resistive switching changes, then we call the device to device variability. So this device to device variability, device to device variability, mainly due to the eccentric properties of the device, such as thickness variation, roughness. If you have different roughness between the two different devices and different thickness between the two different devices, then the resistance, of course, the variability will exist. Of course, the composition. If you have a different composition, different devices in this one. If you have same thin film, but in different devices they have different composition at some parts, then the variability exists in those device to device. Eccentric, this is one of the major problem. Is eccentric is due to the morphology of this morphology of the conducting filament. As I have shown you previously, the conducting filament is very random. Therefore, mostly the cycle to cycle variability is due to morphology of the conducting filament, and the random defects in the especially in the random defects. If you are using polycrystalline amorphous material, the defects in the device, it mainly influence the switching characteristics of the device, because this, if you cannot control this randomness of the conductive filament, it is very difficult to control the switching parameters. So for example, this is the morphology of the conductive filament. There are several people showed that the filament is a very random process, such as if you see here the nickel oxide, this is very random, as that of lightning. In this tantalum oxide, the filament is also very random due to the high Joule heating and due to the different phases forming in this TaO2 structure. In this titanium oxide, thin film, you can see the lot of so many filaments are there, subfilamentary structures are forming due to the lot of defects in the STO, tensile titanium thin films. If you take the tantalum oxide, there are a lot of filament formations, a lot of subfilaments, due to the defect structures. So there are two kind of defect structures, like three-dimensional defects like point defects, screw defects, something like that. If you take, for example, if you take the STO, there are like three-dimensional arrangement of the point defects. This point defect mainly contribute to the conducting filament very randomly. This given rise to very random conducting filaments. Of course, is the grind boundaries. If you take a polycrystalline thin film, this grind boundaries is arranged very non-regular fashion. Therefore, the filament will form very randomly along the grind boundaries of the thin film. Of course, as Professor Che come up with very good simulation that if you insert some kind of a preferential site at the top or bottom electrode, such as like this, some kind of preferential site, like some kind of conducting dots or conducting rods, then you can reduce the distribution of the switching parameters. If you see, without any preferential site, the large distribution of set and reset voltages. While if you insert some kind of preferential sites like this, then you will eventually reduce the distribution of switching parameters. Like lightening in the sky along the Eiffel Tower like this, you can the Eiffel Tower act as a preferential site, so the lightning will always form along this Eiffel Tower is act like as a preferential site for the device. So of course, in fact, this is experimentally proven by Professor Wang from the SNU by inserting some ruthenium nano dots at the top electrode near the PT top electrode. He created a preferential site for the device. Therefore, he eventually, in this green line, you can see that he eventually reduced the HRS distribution, HRS, LRS, and set and reset voltage distribution. He reduced the variability in this TiO2 device. So, however, it is interesting approach that they can control the variability. However, it is in terms of manufacturing, in terms of scientific point of view, it is not reliable to depend on these kind of engineered devices. Therefore, look into the origin of the variability, such as this eccentric properties, and choose the different kind of methods and materials. Therefore, we can eventually control this kind of defects in the material system. Then we may end up with reduced randomness in the reduced variability in the devices. For example, if you choose the very good method, then you can avoid the eccentric variability. For example, if you can choose such a way method that you can deposit thin film very uniformly, very smoothly with a uniform composition, then the eccentric variability can be reduced. For example, if we choose the epitaxial thin film to reduce the local defects and the local grind boundaries and everything. So these epitaxial thin films are single crystalline thin films. So you have very high uniform crystal faces and low defects and high uniform thickness and high uniform surface, and you have very smooth surface. These epitaxial thin films. You can achieve this epitaxial thin film by using the pulsar laser deposition. This is a versatile technique to prepare high quality model systems. So for materials, we have to it is very important to choose a material such a way that it allows us for controlling the morphology of the conducting filament and the random defects in the crystal structure. So we choose the Brown-Muller oxide memory as our material system. In this, it is very interesting. Interesting fact is about the Brown-Muller system is that it is in this Brown-Muller structure, it is a non-stoichiometric perovskite material. It is derived from the perovskite AbO3 structure. However, these have a oxygen deficiency, 0.5 percentage oxygen 0.5 have a oxygen deficiency from the perovskite. Therefore, it have a layered structure such as octahedral, tetrahedral, tetrahedral. In these tetrahedrals, there is oxygen vacancy ordering. So these oxygen vacancies are the defects. They are highly ordered in the bronmolar structure. So therefore, they conduct the high oxygen ion conduction along these tetrahedrals because they have oxygen vacancies inside the tetrahedral layers. Moreover, these brommolar oxides can go topotactic phase transformation between the brommolar insulating to perovskite conducting material. So it means that this redox process changes the crystal phase by gaining some material like oxygen, taking oxygen, incorporating the oxygen or decreasing the oxygen from one crystal phase like brommolar is orthorhombic to perovskite is a cubic crystal phase. But and again, they changing their transport properties such as the insulators, conductivity properties. They're changing the properties of transport and magnetic and every property that can be changed. This topotactic phase transformation is a highly reversible. It is due to eccentric properties of brommolar structure, and it is these phases are relatively stable at room temperature, and this phase transformation can be useful for the gradual phase transition. And this phase transformation that goes at very low temperatures, around 250 degrees Celsius, something like that. For example, Professor Zhang and Professor Jean from the Pusan National University, he demonstrated that by using the oxygen annealing process, he demonstrated the topotactic phase transformation in the transition cobalt system. As prepared brownal oxide thin film exhibited brommolar structure. If you see this is the 0 plane brommolar peak from the octahedral tetrahedral layered structure. This is superstructure peak from the brommolar structure. If you after annealing this brommolar thin film in the oxygen, then eventually they end up with the perovskite thin film cubic like structure, cubic transition cobalt thin film. From the brommolar transition cobalt oxide thin films. This is the topotactic phase transformation by annealing process. It is interesting that in brommolar phase it is insulating, and it is a paramagnetic, and it is in the case of perovskite it is a conducting, and it is a paramagnetic material. Therefore, if you use this topotactic phase transformation, this is the eccentric properties of a brommolar structure, and as I mentioned previously, Intel used the PCM memory for the PCM memory for the commercialization, because due to that is the eccentric properties of that material. So here also this topotactic phase transformation is the eccentric properties. It can be highly reproducible, and can be highly switchable, very fast it can be switchable at very low temperature. Therefore, this topotactic phase transformation might give a resistive switching with the uniform resistive switching characteristics due to this eccentric properties of topotactic transformation, because it's not due to the very random process. This is the highly ordered structure due to the topotactic phase transformation. This topotactic transformation together with the brommolar structure might give a very good resistive run exponentiality with controlled switching parameters. Therefore, Octolia et al. From in 2014, Octolia et al. And Professor Zhang experimentally demonstrated that by integrating the brommolar transition cobalt oxide system and on top of transition ruthenite as a bottom electrode and transition titanate as a substrate, they have deposited the brommolar highly quality brommolar oxide systems and with rather good quality thin films. Then these thin films exhibited a high strain and epitaxial growth of the thin film due to this from the RSM you can notice easily this is highly strained thin films. After that, these devices these devices fabricated in the cross-point architecture for resistive switching. They applied the voltage. They can see, as you can see from here, the resistive switching exhibited the resistive switching, bipolar resistive switching is exhibited after the forming process. Very interesting here that the forming voltage, this forming voltage here, this forming voltage is less than the set voltage. Is due to that it is a very unique that as compared to other materials. Usually the other materials having the forming voltage much higher than the set voltage like this much higher than the set voltage. However, in this Samsung cobalt system, the set voltage is much higher than the forming voltage. This forming voltage is very small than the set voltage. And the retention also the retention of the device in LRS and HRS showed good up to certain time. However, there is small retention failure at the starting of retention measurements. In this area dependent study means the area dependency means while changing the area of the top electrode, we recorded they recorded the LRS and the HRS resistance. In LRS, device showed independent of device area. Even at larger area, the device showed independent of the LRS showed independent of device area. However, the HRS showed a dependency of HRS is due to the larger area, and due to the larger area, the resistance of the HRS is decreased. However, the LRS showed independent nature. It's indicating that the resistive switching process in the Samsung cobalt oxide system is due to the filamentary switching. So, however, the main problem with the Samsung cobalt system is that the switching showed very high non-uniformity in the switching parameter. Lots of variability, so much variability in switching characteristics. You can see here, so much variability in switching characteristics. Very poor switching behavior. I think it might be due to the very roughly grown surface, very rough surface of Samsung cobalt system. It might be influenced the switching properties in Samsung cobalt system. So in order to prove this one, we place the propagation tip on top of the Samsung cobalt surface. Then we apply the voltage. After this voltage, applying voltage and recorded the IV characteristics, you can see that if we compare here and there, that the switching is improved drastically as compared to with top electrode configuration. With probe configuration, the switching is improved drastically due to the reduced surface roughness effect here. This is a roughness surface effect because this probe area is very small, like 0.5 micrometer. Therefore, the roughness effect is reduced a lot in this device configuration. Therefore, the switching produced uniform switching here. Rather uniform, I would say, because still there is a lot of variation in the switching characteristics. This might be due to that the top interface, the switching is non-localized, the filament is non-localized. This might be one of the reasons due to, as I've shown you, the eccentric properties of the surface morphology, right? So this might be due to that reason that this might be due to show the switching is non-uniformity in the SCO system. In order to understand that, we did some kind of finite element simulation for field distribution. We see here that in this probe based configuration, the field is localized. So therefore, the roughness the roughness is minimized so that the filament will form very vertically or very localized filament forms here. However, if you have some roughnesses here, the filaments are non-localized. Maybe due to this random filaments at the top electrode might be given rise to non-uniformity in the Samsung cobalt systems. Therefore, we look into another prototype Brown Miller oxide with a highly uniform surface, highly uniform smooth surface. So we found out that transium iron oxide can be grown very smoothly, and it can be grown it can undergo a topotetic transformation between the brown laminator to perovskite. Therefore, we grow transium iron oxide system on top of transium with titanate, and transium within it as a bottom electrode. You can see that we as transium cobalt, we can also observe here that the brown number superstructure peaks. The transium iron oxide device showed high quality thin films. It is also very strained thin film. From this is very important that from the AFM measurements that the surface showed very smooth step-like flows surface as that of substrate, and we can from the HRTM we can see that the oxygen vacants are ordered along the in-plane direction of this. These white and black stripes represent the brown anomalous structure and the oxygen vacancy channels in the device. So therefore, after gold deposition, we applied the voltage and recorded the resistive switching. Interestingly, the forming voltage is less than the set voltage as that of transium cobalt system, and the resistive switching showed highly uniform switching in this transium iron oxide system. With this picture shows the 100 cycles. Still, the switching is very highly uniform. There is no much fluctuation in the reset voltage and the set voltage. As you can notice from here, the set voltage and reset voltage is very small here. Even the resistance of the 0.2 volts, the 0.2 volts, this shows very uniform straight cumulative probability here. It is highly uniform resistive switching characteristics. This might be due to the smooth surface and the brown molar crystal phase. Therefore, we believe that our brown molar structure promoted a peculiar vertical conductive filaments rather than this zigzag and very random filaments. Moreover, in the transium cobalt system, it has higher surface roughness. This might induce the poor switching performance in transium cobalt. In this transium iron oxide system, it produces the uniform switching characters due to the smooth top surface. However, I will in the next half of my presentation on May 22, I will show this topotetic phase transformation in this brown molar oxide is rather different what we expected. I will show you the more switching mechanism about these brown molar structures and their uniqueness in the next presentation by using the photoelectron microscopy as well as transmission electron microscopy. With this, I would like to conclude for the first part that we successfully demonstrated the resistive switching in transium iron oxide, transium cobalt, and it's exhibited a low forming voltage than the set voltage. And transium cobalt device exhibited poor switching performance due to the rough interface between the gold and between the top and the transium cobalt thin film. The layer by layer grown SF4 thin film showed highly uniform resistive switching due to the atomically smooth surface. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you have any doubts or comments, please let me know by email or in Kakao Talk. Thank you so much for your time.